Hey, am I live yet? I have no idea. I think so. Hey! Boom. Bring back space travel. Absolutely. Number one. Hello! Harris. It's Clank himself, XJ0461. I'm live. Nice. What's going on? Hey. We still got 14 minutes. How are things? Am I sounding good? Thanks, Sky. I tried for a while last night to get the chat box to be a transparent thing I could just put, and I was gonna make it full screen, and I did everything I was supposed to do, and it just straight up would not work. It just isn't transparent. Is this okay? Is this okay the way it is? I can stretch it out a little more. Is that okay? I'm sorry. I tried. I don't know why it won't work. This is the best I could do right now. From France? That's crazy. Be a long 14 minutes. Yeah, maybe could have started like 5 minutes before. But we could like hang out for a minute, you know? Thank you for loving the channel. I love it too. Hello, Preston. Cracking Time is my favorite, Harris. You should see my Decade of a Masterpiece Cracking Time video essay I did. Will tell you exactly why it is my favorite game ever, period. Hey, waffle syrup. I love syrup on my waffles. Flight of the Valkyries, absolutely, for the new Rhino. How do you, I don't think I ever was saying it right. Harbinger? Is that how you say it, from Deadlocked? Harbinger? Harbinger? Oh, I'm well. I'm kind of tired. I'm a little shaky. I don't know if that's because I'm nervous, or I'm tired, or I'm hungry, or probably a little bit of both, or all three of those things. Norway? Someone's watching me from Norway? That's a really far away place. Favorite weapon? That's a tough choice, but I'll tell you right now, the first thing that comes to mind is Spiral of Death from A Crack in Time. I wouldn't say A Crack in Time has the best weapons, but that is like S tier weapon. Crack in Time is perfect. Yes, I'm so glad we can have people. I can like talk to people about Ratchet and Clank here. This is awesome. I said it right one time out of all those screw ups, huh? Harbing. Oh my god, you guys are. I can't believe I have a chat that's going too fast for once. This is insane. Harbinger. Say it like a pirate. Binge. Harbinger. Harbinger. Harbinger? Harbinger. Harbinger. like that. Norway gang. Croatia? Did I say that right? I probably said that wrong. You're gonna stop watching now. Finland! Czech Republic! Who are all Israel? Y'all are insane. What time is it over there? What time is it for you guys? Rhino is S tier, but which one though? But which one? I should be looking at it over here, so I'm like looking at the camera. It's smaller though, so I'm gonna keep looking at it over here. Favorite villain? I mean, I guess Nefarious, right? He's just like S tier villain, just overall, every category. Lawrence is best side villain, right? Is he really a villain? I mean, if Batman was a villain, would what's his name? Arbus? What's his name? The butler guy? Would Batman's butler be a villain if Batman was a villain? Like, is that how it would work, or he would just be like there also? Yes, Preston, I will address that in a minute. And that A Sly Cooper game. Wait, let me read just all these real quick. It's almost 5 p.m. Oh, lucky. Well, that's like kind of midday. I would probably still be at work. Hey, old Hermamora. That's a great suggestion. Has it started? 9 minutes. We still got 9 minutes to go. We're just hanging out for a minute, you know? This is nice. I like this. This is fun. This is kind of insane. How many people are watching right now? I have no idea. I should probably... I'm going to open this real quick, but I'm going to put it on my other screen over here so I can see it. This is kind of insane. That's a good idea. I should probably... How many people are watching? 69! We're at 69 views! That's a good idea. Oh boy. How many people are watching? What did I do? Oh, that's mine. Whoops, we don't want to look at mine. Oh man. It's falling apart already. What do I do for work? I work at Panera Bread. Oh, that's mine. Whoops, we don't want to look at mine. As an associate trainer, no matter what they tell you, I'm a trainer, okay? Not an associate. I work at Panera Bread. England. I'm supposed to be going to London in July. We'll see if that happens now. Size matters. S tier, not S tier, but not as bad as some people might think. I would say. I wouldn't say Secret Agent Clank is S tier, but it's definitely better than Size Matters. 69 viewers. Nobody's allowed to leave or join. Oh, we just hit 71 right when I said that. Nice, nice. Look at all the nice. This is nice. Nobody's allowed to leave or join. Oh, we just hit 71. You can hear me twice? Uh-oh. Hey, there we go. I fixed it. Sorry. Has it been like that the whole time? Oh my god. Thank you for pointing that out. What did I say I was going to address? Oh, well, first of all, okay. Everyone here that's like expecting a new Ratchet and Clank game to get announced like right now, just like please don't expect that. I have like zero expectations for them to actually announce any games at all, really. I don't think they're going to announce anything. But there is the slightest chance that they may. It's, I mean, potentially possible. This is supposedly what they had planned to do for 3 a.m. in Australia. Oh my god. You rock, Chief Blocks 4000. What a trooper. I have no idea how long this is going to be either. It's probably going to be at least an hour, I'm guessing, because this is what they had planned for GDC. Those are usually like an hour. Excuse me. Can't cut out my burps live. This is what they had planned for GDC, which is usually like a kind of a tech show, I think. What is it? Game Developers Conference is what that stands for. So a lot of developer talk. So probably not a lot of like announcements for games they would have planned to do. Maybe like a couple like little teases. Like maybe like I would honestly expect a Spider-Man tease more than a Ratchet and Clank announcement. But who knows? Slightest chance they might. Even if they don't, it'll be super exciting. This is exciting. We've been waiting what feels like forever. It's really just kind of been like a month and a half. We've all been like dying. Like the past like 6 weeks, I think everyone has just been suffering, choking to death, waiting for this announcement. So it's finally happening. And look, it is a stream. It is a stream, actually. I wasn't sure if it was going to be a stream or not. It seemed like it wasn't going to be, but I guess it is. I meant to clear that up in yesterday's announcement video, which I should private by the way. I'm not going to delete it. I'm just going to like, I'll probably unlist it so you can still click the link on my Twitter. Follow me on Twitter if you want to watch that. What are people saying? I'm not reading right now. FFA better than All for One. I don't know. They're both good in like very different ways. Neither of them are good Ratchet and Clank games, but they're great co-op games and great tower defense games. 22 viewers? Is that what it is? Mine says 87. FFA better? I mean, maybe. I feel like All for One was developed better. I feel like FFA was kind of had more issues, I feel like. But I don't know. I need to play them more. Yeah, 81 viewers, right? That's insane. I've never streamed for this many people before in my life. I've been doing YouTube for over 4 years now. Right? Or no, this would be the 4th year, I think, because I started in 2016? I don't even know. A lot of you would probably assume I started back in October when I started doing these Ratchet videos and everything started exploding, which has been amazing. I've done like streaming here and there the past like 3-4 years, whatever, and it's usually for nobody, maximum of like 3 people. I streamed the Game Awards back in December. That was a lot of fun. That was so much fun. We had, I don't even remember. It was like a good amount of viewers, like 20 or so, which was insane. But yeah, here we are. So last night at like 2 a.m. or something, 1 a.m., 1:30 a.m., we hit 1,000 subscribers on the channel, which is really insane. Are people like actually watching this right now? Or are y'all, these are all bots? These are all like Russian bots or something? Yeah, now I'm famous. I did it. I'm gonna knock Jacksepticeye off of Forbes 30 under 30. Did you see a Sonic character on Sonic's Twitter? That Irish Sonic character? What was up with that? I just kind of briefly saw that before I started this. What the hell did I just watch with that? Sorry for my squeaky ass arm on this chair. I cannot fix it. Me bot, me not real. See, I knew it. 100. Oh, no. I've never streamed for 100 viewers. Right when I said that, dropped to 98. How is the quality good? The quality is okay, right? It should be. Look at that. 2 minutes, boys. 2 minutes left. And the audio should be good. I spent like 2 hours yesterday making sure the audio would be good for this. I don't know what audio level this stream is gonna play at, so I still have to adjust it like right when it starts. Quality is fine. Okay, great. Thank you. Wow, this is great. People are actually watching. So when I ask them, hey, how's this? They'll actually reply to me and let me know. That's never happened before. I thank you. I love you. Thank you. 1080, 60 FPS. Wow, my landlord's gonna kill me for the internet bill this month. 2 minutes, we're gonna learn about the PlayStation 5. You can't see my mouse, can you? That's weird. Do I want to allow that? We can see the mouse. Do you want to see the mouse? We don't need to see the mouse. I was saying something. 60 seconds. We're in seconds now. It's not dropping from 60 though. But yeah, we just hit 1,000 subs, which is a lot. I have to work today. I'm working at 1:45. It's almost 9 here. I have to go to work at 1:45. It'll probably be a really short shift because we don't have any customers. I'm coming home and I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna do a proper like 1,000 sub thank you video. I'm gonna talk about a couple of things that nobody's really gonna care about but me, but I wanted to talk about them. Also, I'm gonna have a big announcement in the video. Hopefully it'll be up today. I don't know. Thank you. How would I say that? Lulu? Or lolol? Yes, thank you. Audio is good. Thank you too. I love you. No, you don't love me. That's a strong word. But I love you though. That's different. We'll begin shortly. We're going. How is this? I know we're like last second question here. How's this setup? Is this setup okay? Would you prefer the chat to not be on the screen and it would just be full screen? Or do you like having the chat over there and the screen is a little smaller? Is that okay? About the good, what is your opinion on about the good part in Ratchet and Clank PS4? Like, what do I like about it? I think it's like a fun game. It's very fun. I don't know. I could say a lot about that right now. Setup is, you like the setup? Thank you. I'm glad. That makes me feel better. That relieves me a little bit. Thank you. Chat doesn't need to be on screen. You're a little outvoted right now, so. Yes, there's Skyly Ann. That's my girlfriend, everyone. Send her love. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the PS4 game is just polished and incredible. And, like, the only things that are bad about it is that it's just really easy. And it's pretty kid. Oh, we're going. Never mind what I'm saying. Okay, no, we still... Now we actually have 2 minutes. The stream has started for the 2-minute countdown. 116, 119 right now. Oh my God. Can I look at this stuff over here real quick? Like analytics. Wow, steadily climbing viewer count. That's insane. What's my stream health at? What does that even mean? Okay. I've had 122 concurrent viewers. Oh no, that's right now. 289 playbacks already. What? People actually watch my channel. I don't believe that. I still don't believe that. Do you guys like my my shirt here? I'm still a floating head. I'm just also sporting, you know, the proper wear. There's nothing underneath. You know, I'd be like, hey guys, you wanna you want a little sneak peek? Ah. Quantum Chill, I saw you say something about my OnlyFans. Yes, please subscribe to my OnlyFans. Quantum Chill, your comments that you leave me are like my favorite comments that I read every day. Nicolas. Thank you. I saw the shirt. It was at Target, and it was just kind of an impulse buy. Christian! Christian Haddock is here, my guys. Christian, I wouldn't be here without Christian. Christian, you're getting a special shout out in my 1,000 sub thank you video later today. Would not be here without this guy. Favorite melody from Ratchet, like favorite song? Oh boy. All of the first game's OST is spectacular. But A Crack in Time, what is it? Fixing the Great Clock is like one of the best songs of all time. Okay, we're going. It's happening. 5 seconds. You guys ready? PlayStation 5 news. Again, maybe not Ratchet and Clank news, but we'll find out. At least maybe some backwards compatibility so we can play the older games.
Hi.
On current gen. I can't hear him.
Cancel the talk that we had
Hello?
Planned for GDC.
Oh, okay.
But we do have some super exciting news about PS5.
Are those fake audience members, or is that real?
To bring that to you, than the one and only Mark Cerney. Without further ado, over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, let me know if you guys can hear him okay with this.
There will be lots of chances later on this year to look at the PlayStation 5 games.
If either of us are too loud.
I want to talk a bit about our goals for the PlayStation 5 hardware.
He literally just said no game announcements in the first 10 seconds.
I think you all know I'm a big believer in console generations.
It's still very exciting.
5 or 6 or 7 years, a console arrives
maybe
with
backwards compatibility.
Capabilities. There's a lot of learning by the game
the
developers, hopefully not too overwhelming, and soon there's games that could never have been created before. Now, it used to be that as a console designer, you'd somehow intuit what would be the best set of capabilities for the new console, and then build it in complete secrecy. For the PlayStation consoles, that period lasted through PlayStation 3, a powerful and groundbreaking console, but also one that caused quite a lot of heartache, as it was initially difficult to develop games for.
He just said PS3 is trash.
With PlayStation 4, we've taken a different approach, roughly centered around 3 principles. The first of these is listening to the developers, which is to say that a lot of what we put into a console derives directly from the needs and aspirations of the game creators. We definitely do have some ideas of our own, but at the core of our philosophy for designing consoles is that game players are here for the fantastic games, which is to say that game creators matter. Anything we can do to make life easier for the game creators or help them realize their dreams, we will do. So, about once every 2 years, I take a tour of the industry. I go to the various
we saw him doing this on Twitter, I think, right?
And discuss how they're doing with the current consoles and what they'd like to see in future consoles. This requires weeks on the road, as reaching the bulk of the game creators involves talking to well over 100 people at something like 24 publishers and developers. And it is incredibly valuable. By the way, the feature most requested by the developers, that was an SSD, which we were very happy
SSD? I want to hear more about this SSD.
Problem solving was required. I'll be doing a deep dive on the SSD and surrounding systems later on in this talk. It's also key to make a
Are these just fake silhouettes?
Keeping the console sufficiently familiar to game developers.
Okay.
I think about this in terms of balancing evolution and revolution. Now, with PlayStation 1, 2, and 3, the target was a revolution each time with a brand new feature set. That was great in many ways, but time for the developers to get up and running got longer with each console.
This looks like he's announcing the PS9 right now.
Time to triangle. Here's what I had for those 3 consoles. To be clear, I'm not talking about time to make a game. Developers will be ambitious,
Development
and it may
curve,
take them
right?
6 years or so to realize their vision. What I'm talking about is that dead time before graphics and other aspects of game development.
This is what I was talking about in that video. I couldn't find this chart anywhere.
On the other hand, if we're trying to reduce that dead time to 0, that means the hardware architecture can't change at all. We're handcuffed. We need to judge for each feature what value it adds and whether it's worth the increase in developer time needed to support it.
Yeah,
So
they're
with
totally
PlayStation
robots.
4, we were able to strike a pretty good balance.
Well, the PS4 was 1 to 2
and
months.
familiarity. We got required learning back.
And the PS5 is like the same, so it's going to be like a
With
month
PS5,
learning curve.
The GPU was definitely the area we felt the most tension between adding new features and keeping a familiar programming model.
Quantum chill.
Ultimately, I think we've ended up with something under a month of getting up to speed.
Yeah, look at that.
That feels
What did
like
I
we're
say?
striking about the right balance. I'll go into a bit more
That's
detail
crazy.
later today about our philosophy with the GPU and the specific feature set that resulted from it.
Is this live or is this pre-recorded?
It's also very important for
We're
us
just playing it
as the hardware team to find new dreams, by which I mean something other than CPU performance, GPU performance, and the amount of RAM. The increasing
I got a
graphic
Dreams
performance
video
over
coming
the
out
past
Sunday.
2 decades has been astonishing, but there are other areas in which we can innovate and provide significant value to the game creators, and through them, the players. That's why the SSD was very much on our list of
Sorry, I'll
directions
shut
to
up more.
explore, regardless of what came out of the conversations with game developers and publishers. The biggest feature in this category is the custom engine for audio. That's today's final topic. The push for vastly improved audio, and in particular, 3D audio, isn't something that came out of the developer meetings. It's much more the case that we had a dream of what might be possible 5 years from now, and then worked out a number of steps we could take to set us on that path.
Yeah, Shifty.
So here
just
again are the 3 principles. The first
little bit,
being
you know, turn down.
enabling the desires of developers to drive the hardware design. To me, the SSD really is the key to the next generation. It's a game changer. And it was the #1 ask from developers for PlayStation 5. As in, we know it's probably impossible, but can you put an SSD in it? That was a discussion we were also having internally. It was clear that the presence of a hard drive in every PlayStation 4 was having a positive impact. A lot of things that would simply have been impossible at Blu-ray disc speeds were now possible. At the same time, though, in 2015 and 2016, when we were having these conversations, developers were already banging up against the limits of the hard drive, and a lot of developer time was being spent designing around slow load speeds. I want to focus in on just one number here, which is how long it takes to load a gigabyte of data from a hard drive. The difficulty being
2 seconds.
that hard drives are neither particularly fast nor flexible.
Never mind.
If all your data is in one block, which is frankly not very likely, you can load 50 to 100 megabytes a second.
Yeah, Shifty, if you
depending
don't
on
want to
where
listen
the
to
data
somebody
is
talk, why are you
located
watching
on the
somebody
hard
talk
drive.
over
Let's
it?
assume it's on the outer edge, which means loading a gigabyte takes 10 seconds. If you compress your game packages, you can fit more data on the Blu-ray disc and also effectively boost your hard drive read speed by the compression ratio. We support zlib decompression on PlayStation 4 that gets you something like 50% more data on the disc and 50% higher effective read speed.
I mean, none of this really even means anything to me, to be honest.
It's highly likely that your data is scattered
fast.
around in various files on the hard drive, as well as sourced from multiple locations within those files. So lots of seeks are needed at 2 to 50-ish milliseconds each. My rule of thumb is that the hard drive is spending 2/3 of its time seeking, and only 1/3 of its time
Yeah, they're going to
actually
show us what it looks
loading
like.
data. Putting all of that together, a gigabyte is very roughly 20 seconds to load from a hard drive. Now, a gigabyte is not much data. Games are using 5 or 6 gigabytes of RAM on PlayStation 4, so boot times and load times can get pretty
this is very,
grim.
like,
Or to put that
corporate.
differently, as a player, you wait for the game to boot, wait for the game
I can just
to
do
load,
sign language.
wait for the
everything I'm gonna
level
say. I know
to
ASL.
reload every time you die, and you wait for what is euphemistically called fast travel. And all of that leads to the dream. What if we could have not just an SSD, but a blindingly fast
Instantaneous.
SSD? If we could load 5 gigabytes a second from it, what would change? Now, SSDs are completely different from hard drives. They don't have seeks as such. If you have a 5 gigabyte a second SSD, you can read data from 1,000 different locations in that second, pretty much at speed.
It's weird.
As for time to load a gigabyte, this is next gen we're talking about, so memory is bigger. Instead, we should
can y'all just use sign language in the chat? It's kind of distracting.
And the answer is about 1/4 of a second. I mean, that's amazing.
Wow.
We're talking 2 orders of magnitude, meaning very roughly 100 times faster.
Jesus
Which means
Christ.
at 5 gigabytes a second for the SSD, the potential is that
load screens are going to look like
a second. There
warp
are
drive
no
on
load
Star
screens.
Wars.
The game just fades down while loading a half dozen gigabytes and fades back up again. Same
That's
for
exactly
a
what I
reload.
just
You're
said
immediately back in the
in the
action
last
after
video.
you die. And fast travel becomes so fast it's blink and you miss it. As game creators, we go from trying to distract the player from how long fast travel is taking, like those Spider-Man subway rides, to being so blindingly fast that we might even have to slow that transition down.
Oh, the quality just dropped.
Pretty cool, right? But for me, this is not the primary reason to change from a hard drive to an SSD.
Yes, I know. What is the primary reason?
Ultra-fast SSD is that it gives the game designer freedom.
Yes, this is
Or to
what
put that
I'm excited
differently,
for.
With a hard drive, the 20 seconds that it takes to load a gigabyte can sabotage the game that the developer is trying to create.
Yes,
I
this
think
is what I was trying to say in the last
almost all of us
video.
in the room have experienced this, maybe in different ways. Say we're making an adventure game and we have 2 rich environments where we each want enough textures and models to fill memory, which you can do as long as you have a long staircase or elevator ride or a windy corridor where you can ditch the old assets and then take 30 seconds or so to load the new assets. Having a 30-second elevator ride is a little extreme. More realistically,
Jack and
we'd
Daxter.
probably chop the world into a number of smaller pieces and then do some calculations with sight lines and run speeds like we did for Haven City when we were making Jack 2.
He's talking about
The game is
Jack.
20
What did I
years old,
say?
but not much has changed since then. All those twisty passages
They
are
just
there
brought
for
up
a reason.
Jack too.
There's a whole subset of level design dedicated to this sort of work, but still, it's a giant distraction for a team that just wants to make their game. So when I talked about the dream of an SSD, part of the reason for that 5 gigabyte a second target was to eliminate loads, but also part of the reason for that target was streaming. As in, what if the SSD is so fast that as the player is turning around, it's possible to load textures for everything behind the player in that split second? If you figure that it takes half a second to turn, that's 4 gigabytes of compressed data you can load.
Wow, they
that
did the
sounds
math.
about right for next gen. Anyway, back to the hard drive. Another strategy for increasing effective read speed is to make big sequential chunks of data. For example, we might group all the data together for each city block. That removes most of the seeks, and the streaming gets faster. But there's a downside too, which is that frequently used data is included in many chunks and therefore is on the hard drive many, many times. Marvel's Spider-Man uses this strategy, and though it works very well for increasing the streaming speed, there's a massive duplication as a result. Some of the objects like mailboxes or news racks are on the hard drive 400 times. What I'm describing here are things that cramp a creative director's style. Either level design gets a little bit boring in places, or the data is duplicated so many times that it no longer fits on the Blu-ray disc. And you end up with hard limits on the player's run speed or driving speed. The player can't go faster than the load speed from the hard drive. And finally, I'm sure many of you have noticed that after a patch download, a PlayStation 4 will sometimes take a long time to install the patch.
Yeah.
That's because when just part of a file has been changed, the new data can be downloaded pretty quickly. But before the game boots up, a brand new file has to be constructed that includes the changed portion. Otherwise, every change would add a seek or
I can't believe they mentioned Jack at all.
Even so,
That's
you
crazy.
can occasionally see this happening on game titles. They start to hitch once they get patched enough.
I think he was pretty close with
an SSD,
Naughty Dog during Jack,
no
though. So.
seeks. So no need to make
Makes
brand
sense.
new files with the changes incorporated into them, which means no installs as you know them today.
Wow.
There's yet one more benefit, which is that system memory can be used much more efficiently. On PlayStation 4, game data on the hard drive feels very distant and difficult to use. By the time you realize you need a piece of data, it's much too late to go out
I love
and
it,
load
though.
So system memory has to contain all of the data that could be used in the next 30 seconds or so of gameplay. That means a lot of the 8 gigabytes of system memory is idle. It's just waiting there to be potentially
This is current gen.
On PlayStation 5, though, the SSD is very
now we got
close to
bigger
being
bars.
like more RAM. Typically, it's fast enough that when you realize you need a piece of data, you can just load it from the SSD and use it.
Oh, and one more
There's
thing.
no need to have lots of data parked in system memory waiting to potentially be used. A different way of saying that is that most of RAM is working on the game's behalf. This is one of the reasons that 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 feels right for PlayStation 5. The presence of the SSD reduces the need for a massive intergenerational increase in size. So back to the dream of the SSD. Here's the set of targets. Boot the game in a second.
Yeah.
No load screens. Design freedom, meaning no twisty passages or long corridors.
That's the exciting
More
part.
game on the disk and more game on the SSD. And finally, those patch installs go away.
That's sick.
The reality, though, is that the SSD is just one piece
God
of the puzzle.
War.
There's a lot of places where bottlenecks can occur in between the SSD
I care
and
about
the
anything
game
else
code
besides
that
the
uses
SSD.
data. You can see this on PlayStation 4. If I use an SSD with 10 times the speed of a standard hard drive, I probably see only double the loading speed, if that. For PlayStation 5, our goal was not just that the SSD itself be 100 times faster. It was that game loads and streaming would be 100 times faster. So every single potential bottleneck needed to be addressed.
Look at that.
And there are a lot.
The squares are the same size now.
Let's look at check-in and what happens when its overhead gets 100 times larger. Conceptually, check-in is a pretty simple process. Data is loaded into system memory from the hard drive or SSD. It's examined. A few values are tweaked to check it in, and then it's moved to its final location. At the SSD speeds we're talking about, that last part, moving the data, meaning copying it from one location to another,
Those are some good
takes
squares, I agree.
roughly an entire next-gen CPU core. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. If all the overheads get 100 times larger, that will cripple the frame rate as soon as the player moves, and that massive stream of data starts coming off the SSD. So to solve all of that, we built a lot of custom hardware, namely a custom flash controller and a number of custom units in our main chip. The flash controller in the SSD was designed for smooth and bottleneck-free operation, but also with games in mind. For example, there are 6 levels of priority when reading from the SSD.
Like for Ratchet
Priority
and Clank.
is very important. You can imagine the player heading into some new location in the world and the game requesting a few gigabytes of textures. And while those textures are being loaded, an enemy is shot and has to speak a few dying words.
He said
Having
Jack too,
multiple
and I'm good.
priority levels lets the audio for those dying words get loaded immediately. On one side, that flash controller connects to the actual flash dies that supply the storage. To reach our bandwidth target of 5
Ratchet and Clank
gigabytes a
controller.
second, we ended up with a 12-channel interface. 8 channels wouldn't be enough. The resulting
Cerney.
bandwidth we've achieved is actually 5.5 gigabytes a second. With a 12-channel interface, the most natural size that emerges for an SSD is 825 gigabytes. The key question for us was, is that enough? I mean, it's tempting to add more,
Never.
but flash certainly doesn't come cheap, and we have a responsibility to our gaming audience to be cost-effective with regards to what we put in the console.
You're rich now after PS4, so it's
Ultimately,
fine.
we resolved this question by looking at the play patterns of a broad range of gamers. We examined the specific games that they were playing over the course of a weekend or a week or a month, and whether that set of games would fit properly on the SSD. We were able to establish that the friction caused by reinstalls or redownloads would be quite low, and so we locked in on that 825 gigabyte size, while also preparing multiple strategies so that those who want more storage can add it. I'll go through the details in a moment. Back to the flash controller. On the other side, it connects to our main custom chip via 4 lanes of Gen 4 PCIe. And inside the main custom chip is a pretty
This is all
hefty
going over my
unit
head. How about you
dedicated
guys?
to I/O. Before we talk about what that does, let's talk compression for a moment. PlayStation 4 used
It's good.
zlib as its compression
That's what
format.
I've gathered.
We decided to use it again on PlayStation 5, but on my 2017 tour of developers, I learned about a new format called
Out of the
Kraken
Nexus.
from Rad Game Tools.
Kraken?
It's like zlib's smarter cousin. Simple, similar types of algorithms, but about
Am I supposed to know
10%
what
better compression, which is
that is?
pretty big. That means 10% more game on the UHD Blu-ray disc or on the SSD. Kraken had only been out for a year, but it was already becoming a de facto industry standard. Half of the teams I talked to were either using it or getting ready to evaluate it.
Show us the
So we
bots.
hustled and built a custom decompressor into the I.O. unit, one
Cthulhu
capable
cult.
of handling over 5 gigabytes of Kraken format input data a second. After decompression, that typically becomes 8
So it's a
or 9
Kraken
gigabytes,
SSD.
but the unit itself is capable of outputting as much as 22 gigabytes a second if the data happen to compress particularly well. By the way, in terms of performance, that custom decompressor equates to 9 of our Zen 2 cores. That's what it would take to decompress the Kraken stream with a conventional CPU. There's a lot more in the custom I.O. unit, including
I'm
a
just hanging in for
dedicated
like the
DMA
bigger news
controller.
probably
The
at the
game can
end.
direct exactly where it wants to send the data coming off of the SSD. This equates to another Zen 2 core or two in terms of its copy performance. Its primary purpose is to remove check-in as a bottleneck. There's 2 dedicated I.O. coprocessors and a large RAM pool. These aren't Zen 2
Why
cores.
is my
They're
controller
there principally
leaking
to direct
ink?
the variety of custom hardware around them. One of the coprocessors is dedicated to SSD I.O. This lets us bypass traditional file I.O. and its bottlenecks when reading from the SSD. The other is responsible for memory mapping, which I know doesn't sound like anything related to the SSD, but a lot of developers map and remap memory as part of file I.O., and this too can become a bottleneck.
I'm pretty honest, none of this
There
sounds
are
like it's related to an
coherency
SSD, but
engines
sure.
to assist the coprocessors. Coherency comes up a lot in places. Probably the biggest coherency issue is stale data in the GPU caches. Flushing all of the GPU caches whenever the SSD is read is an unattractive option. It could really hurt the GPU performance. So we've implemented a gentler way of doing things, where the coherency engines inform the GPU of the overwritten address ranges, and custom scrubbers in several dozen GPU caches do pinpoint evictions of just those.
What is the chat
address
on here
ranges.
saying?
The best thing is, as a game developer, when you read from the SSD, you don't need to know any of this. You don't even
Everyone's
need
equally
to know
as
that your
bored.
data is compressed. You just indicate what data you'd like to read from your original uncompressed file and where you'd like to put it, and the whole process of loading it happens invisibly to you and at very high speed.
He's going to drop
Back
a
to
bomb
the
any
dream.
second.
Thanks to all of that surrounding hardware, our 5.5 gigabytes a second really should translate into something like 100 times faster I.O. than PS4 and allow the dream of no load screens and super fast streaming
Just a
to become
sucker.
a reality. Having said that, expandability of our SSD is going to be quite important. Flash is costly, and you may very well want to add storage to whatever we put in the console. Now, the kind of storage you need depends on how you're going to use it. If you have an extensive PlayStation 4 library and you'd like to take advantage of backwards compatibility to play those games
I'll
on
be honest, I
PlayStation
haven't been
5,
paying attention
then
since
a
the box
large
thing.
external hard drive is
With the
ideal.
orange
You can
boxes.
leave your games on the hard drive and play them directly from there.
They
thus
got
saving the
smaller, but now
pricier
they're the same
SSD storage
size.
for your PlayStation 5
And there's a
titles.
Kraken.
Or you can copy your active PlayStation 4 titles to the SSD. If your purpose in adding more storage is to play PlayStation 5 titles, though, ideally you would add to your SSD storage. We will be supporting certain M2 SSDs. These are
Does that
internal
Bush
drives
guy
you
still
can
not
get
want
on
me
the
to
open
talk over
market
him right now?
and install in a bay in the PlayStation 5. As for which ones we support and when, I'll get to that in a moment. They connect through the custom I.O. unit, just like our SSD does. So they can take full advantage of the decompression, I.O. coprocessors, and all the other features I was talking about.
It's gone.
Here's the catch, though. That commercial drive has to be at least as fast as ours. Games that rely on the speed of our SSD need to work flawlessly with any
Have him
M2
voice
drive.
Lawrence.
When I gave the Wired interview last year, I said that the PlayStation 5 SSD was faster than anything available on PC.
Yeah, I mean,
At
it
the
is kind of a
time,
business meeting. It
commercial
is for
M2 drives used
GDC.
PCIe 3.0, and 4 lanes of that cap out at 3.5 gigabytes a second. In other words, no PCIe 3.0 drive can hit the required spec. M2 drives with PCIe 4.0 are now out in the market. We're getting samples and seeing 4 or 5 gigabytes a second from them. By year's end, I expect there will be drives that saturate 4.0 and support 7 gigabytes a second. Having said
predicting that?
we are comparing apples and oranges, though, because that commercial M2 drive will have its own architecture, its own flash controller, and so on. For example,
I like apples
the
and
NVMe
oranges.
specification lays out a priority scheme for requests that the M2 drives can use. And that scheme is pretty nice, but it only has 2 true priority levels.
Somebody edit
Our
this
drive
for every
supports
time he
6.
says SSD, the
We
video
can
gets
hook
5%
up
faster.
a drive with only 2 priority levels, definitely, but our custom I/O unit has to arbitrate the extra priorities rather than the M2 drive's flash controller. And so the M2 drive needs a little extra speed to take care of issues arising from the different approach. That commercial drive also needs to physically fit inside of the bay we created.
Should I do
in
it? I don't know how to
PlayStation
do those
5 for
videos.
M2 drives.
I can figure it out.
Unlike internal hard drives, there's unfortunately no standard for the height of an M2 drive.
You like
and some
oranges?
M2 drives have giant heat sinks. In fact, some of
Drink
them
every time
even
he says
have their own
SSD.
fans. Right now, we're getting M2 drive samples and benchmarking them in various ways. When games hit beta as they get ready for the PlayStation 5 launch at year-end, we'll also be doing some compatibility testing to make
He
sure
still
that
said
the
it's coming out this
architecture of
year.
particular
No delay.
M2 drives isn't too foreign for the games to handle. Once we've done that compatibility testing, we should be able to start letting you know which drives will physically fit and which drive samples have benchmarked appropriately high in our testing.
A dead meme from
It would be
2005.
great if that happened by launch, but it's likely to be a bit past it. So please hold off on getting that M2 drive until you hear from us. Okay, back to our principles.
Oh, the
Balancing
principles, yeah.
evolution and revolution is the second of them. This was definitely a recurring theme with the GPU. We need new GPU features and capabilities. If we only have more performance, it's not really a new generation of console.
Oh no.
Of course, many of these capabilities result in more performance. That's part of why a PlayStation 5 teraflop is more
He
powerful.
kind of
than
does
a
sound like
PlayStation
Ratchet
4
if he was like a
teraflop.
professor.
But we aren't just looking for the performance. We also need the ability to
He's like a
do
weird
something
mix
with the
between
GPU
Ratchet and
that
Clank.
could not have been done before. And we need higher performance per watt.
No,
Every
Red
time
Ratchet,
we
don't say
double
that.
the performance of some GPU component, we don't want to find out we've doubled the power consumed and the heat produced. But at the same time, we have to make sure the GPU can run PS4 games, and
Yeah.
we have to ensure that the
Backwards
architecture
compatibility.
is easy for the developers.
But he's
to
talking about
adopt.
PS4 though.
Now, backwards compatibility was handled masterfully by AMD. They treated it as a key need throughout the design process.
For
As our
PS4.
solution to adding new features without blindsiding developers, we made sure that if there were new significant features, it would be optional to use them. The GPU supports ray tracing, but you don't have to use ray tracing to make your game. The GPU supports primitive shaders,
So
but you
far
can
he's just
release
been
your
talking
first game on
specs.
PlayStation 5 without making any use of them.
About the SSD.
Before I get into
and
the
principles.
capabilities of the GPU, I'd like to make clear 2 points that can be quite confusing. First, we have a custom AMD GPU based on their RDNA 2 technology. What does that
Oh
mean?
yes.
AMD is continuously
sneeze.
improving and revising their tech. For RDNA 2, their goals were, roughly speaking, to reduce power consumption by re-architecting the GPU to put data close to where it's needed, to optimize the GPU for performance, and to add a new, more advanced feature set. But that feature set is malleable, which is to say that we have our own needs for PlayStation, and that can factor into what the AMD
Everyone was like,
roadmap
talk about
becomes.
PlayStation, talk about
So,
PlayStation.
Collaboration
Okay, we're
is
going to talk
born.
about it.
If
This
we
is boring.
bring concepts to AMD that are felt to be widely useful, then they can be adopted into RDNA 2 and used broadly, including in PC GPUs. If the ideas are sufficiently specific to what we're trying to accomplish, like the GPU cache scrubbers I was talking about, then they end up being just for us.
Yeah,
If
he
you see
said
a
no
similar
game
discrete
news,
GPU
but I'm holding out for
available
backwards
as a
compatibility
PC
to play the
card at
older
roughly
games.
the same time as we release our
And to see the
console,
box,
that
or at least the
means our
controller.
collaboration with AMD succeeded in producing technology.
I don't even have a
useful
lot of
in
hope for
both
that, though, to be
worlds.
honest.
It doesn't mean that we as Sony simply incorporated the PC part into our console. This continuous improvement in AMD technology means it's dangerous to rely on teraflops as an absolute indicator of
Well, I
performance.
like dangerous.
And
Don't you, Mark
CPU
Cerney?
count should be avoided as well. In the case of CPUs, we all understand this. The PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 each have 8 CPUs, but we never think that meant the capabilities and performance are equal. It's the same for CUs. For one thing, they've been getting much
is,
larger over
cringe.
time. Adding new features means adding lots of transistors. In fact, the transistor count for a PlayStation 5 CU is 62% larger than the transistor count for a PlayStation 4 CU. Second, the PlayStation 5 GPU is backwards compatible with PlayStation 4. What does that mean? One way you can achieve backwards compatibility
But
is to put the
PS3
previous console's chipset in the new console, like we did with some PlayStation 3s. But
Yeah.
that's, of course, extremely expensive.
Yeah.
A better way is to incorporate any differences in the previous console's logic
I forget
into
what they call
the new
this.
console's custom chips, meaning that even as the technology evolves, the logic and feature set that PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro titles rely on is still available in backwards compatibility modes. One advantage of this strategy is that once backwards compatibility is in the console, it's in. It's not as if a cost down will remove backwards compatibility like it did on
He's got room to
PlayStation
put a
3.
PS3 in there. He didn't do
Achieving
it.
this unification of functionality took years of efforts by AMD, as any roadmap advancement creates a potential divergence in logic. Running
One of
PS4 and
nature's
PS4 titles at boosted frequencies has also added complexity. The boost is truly massive this time around, and some game code just can't handle it. Testing has to be done on a title-by-title basis. Results are excellent, though. We recently took a look at the top 100 PlayStation 4 titles as ranked by playtime, and we're expecting
That would include
almost
Ratchet, I'm sure.
all of them to be playable at launch on PlayStation 5.
So almost all of the top 100
With regards
PS4
to new
games will be able to
features,
be
as I
played
said,
on PS5
our strategy
at
was
launch.
to try to break new ground, but at the same time not to require
I'm sure
use
that
of the new
includes
GPU capabilities.
The 2016 Ratchet,
For more
at
than
least.
a decade, GPUs have imposed a restriction on game engines. Software handles vertex processing, but for the most part, dedicated hardware is responsible for the triangles and other geometry that the vertices form. That means it's not possible to do even basic optimizations, such as aborting processing of a vertex if all geometry that uses it is off-screen. PlayStation 5 has a new unit called the Geometry Engine, which brings handling of triangles
looks
and
like a
other
brain.
primitives under full programmatic control. As a game developer, you're free to ignore its existence and use the PlayStation 5 GPU as if it were no more capable than the PS4 GPU, or you can use this new intelligence in various ways. Simple usage could be performance optimization, such as removing backfaced or off-screen vertices and triangles. More complex usage involves something called primitive shaders, which allow the game to synthesize geometry on the fly as it's being rendered. It's a brand new
I don't know what he's talking about. If there's
Using
no
primitive shaders on
PS3,
PlayStation
2,
5
or
will
1
allow
backwards
for a broad
compatibility,
variety of techniques,
I feel like you should
including
say that.
smoothly varying level
Because
of
they know
detail,
everyone thinks it's
addition of
happening.
procedural detail to close-up objects, and improvements to particle effects and other visual special effects. Another major new feature of our custom RDNA 2-based GPU is ray tracing,
Are we
using
gonna
the
get a
same
Minecraft
strategy
demo,
as AMD's
like Xbox?
upcoming PC GPUs. The CUs contain a new specialized unit called the intersection engine, which can calculate the intersection of rays with boxes and triangles. To use the intersection
No,
engine,
sir, I swear
first
I
you
never.
build what is called an acceleration
Noise man.
It's data in RAM that contains all of your geometry. There's a specific set
Hey,
of
thank
formats
you,
we
old
use. They're
Hermamora. I'll
variations
catch you
on
later.
the same BVH
Appreciate you.
concept. Then, in your shader program, you use a new instruction that asks the intersection engine to check a ray against the BVH. While the intersection engine is processing the requested ray triangle or ray box,
I love
the shaders
Quantum
are
Chill. I
free
love
to
how much you loved my
Having
PS5
said
video
that,
back
the ray
from like
tracing
April.
instruction is pretty memory intensive, so it's a good mix with logic-heavy code.
That took me a long time, that
There's
video.
of course no need to use ray tracing. PS4 graphics engines will run just fine on PlayStation 5, but it presents an opportunity for those interested.
Opportunity.
I'm thinking it'll take less than 1 million rays a second to have a big impact on audio. That
Less
should
than
be
a
enough
million.
for audio occlusion and some reverb calculations. With a bit more of the GPU invested in ray tracing, it should be possible to do some very nice global illumination. Having said that,
Is it buffering a lot for you? Is it buffering a lot for you guys?
Traditional graphics engine could easily take hundreds of millions of rays a second, and full ray tracing could build.
Thank you, Quantum Chill.
How far can we go? I'm starting to get quite bullish.
I didn't
I've
even think it
already
was that
seen
good of a video,
PlayStation 5
but
title
I appreciate it.
successfully using ray tracing based reflections in complex animated scenes with only modest costs.
Okay, that's good.
Another set of issues for the GPU involved size and frequency. How big do we make the GPU, and
I
what
guess that's
frequency do we run
That's a
it at?
Twitch thing I'm thinking
This
of.
is a balancing act. The chip has a cost,
Hey,
and
follow
there's a
my
cost
Twitch,
for
by the
whatever
way.
we use to supply that chip with power and to cool it. In general, I like running the GPU at higher frequency. Let me show you why. Here's two
I thought we were gonna get a demo.
configurations for a GPU roughly of the level of the PlayStation 4 Pro.
Give us a demo.
This is a thought experiment. Don't take these configurations
they're
too
fuzzball.
seriously. If you just calculate teraflops, you get the same number. But actually, the performance is noticeably different because teraflops is defined as the computational capability of the vector ALU. That's just one part of the GPU. There are a lot of other units. And those other units all run faster when the GPU frequency is higher. At 33% higher frequency, rasterization goes 33% faster.
Rasterization? That's a Photoshop thing.
Goes that much faster. The L2
my nose, man, I
and
gotta sneeze.
other caches have that much higher.
It hasn't happened yet.
And so on. About the only downside is that system memory is 33% further away in terms of cycles. But the large number of benefits more than counterbalance that. As a friend of mine says, a rising tide lifts all boats. Also, it's
tell them to like me live, like this video. Hey, like this video.
Than it is to fully
this live stream.
CUs. When triangles are small, it's much harder to.
I think streaming on YouTube actually hurts my channel. I'm not sure.
So there's a lot to be said for.
So yeah, do leave a like.
Assuming you can handle the resulting power
Pretty
and
please.
heat issues, which frankly we haven't always done the best job at.
Oh, he just acknowledged that the PS4.
Our process for setting CPU and GPU frequencies has relied on some
it sounds like a
guesswork
car engine.
How much electrical power games will consume and how much heat will be produced as a result inside of the console.
Look at this. He's actually talking about it.
Varies a lot from game to game. When I play God of War on my PS4 Pro, I know the power consumption is high just by the fan noise. But power isn't simply about engine quality.
He straight up said the fan noise.
He knows what's being displayed and how. It's counterintuitive, but
somebody disliked. It probably was that Bush guy.
Consumes less power than processing simple geometry.
I'm sure it was.
Which is, I suspect, why Horizon's map screen, with its low triangle count, makes my PS4 Pro heat up so much.
Triangles? Shouldn't we have hexagons?
Has been to try to guess
or is it pentagons?
Pentagons. During the
which one's 5?
Console lifetime might be, which is to say, the worst case scene in the worst case game, and prepare a cooling solution that we think will be quiet at that power level.
So we made it look like a V.
If we get it right, fan noise is minimal. If we get it wrong, the console will be quite loud for the higher power games, and there's even a chance that it might overheat and shut down if we misestimate power.
It's done that to me when I was playing Dreams.
PlayStation 5 is especially challenging because the CPU supports
I have like a
256
original PS4 though.
Instructions that consume a lot of power. These are great here and there, but presumably only minimally used. Or are they? If we plan for major 256-bit instruction usage, we need to set the CPU clock substantially lower or noticeably increase the size of the power supply and fan.
Yeah.
So after much discussion, we decided to go with a very different direction on PlayStation 5.
What is it? I want to hear it.
We built a GPU with 36 CUs.
No.
Mind you, RDNA 2
I don't care about this.
are large. Each has 62.
This isn't what I was expecting. I thought he was going to say, it's going to look like a V.
So if we compare transistor counts, 36 RDNA 2 CUs equates to roughly 58 PlayStation 4.
Yeah, he wears glasses, so he's a nerd.
It is a fairly sizable GPU. Then we went with a variable frequency strategy for PlayStation 5, which is to say we continuously run the GPU and
R2D2
CPU in boost mode. We supply a generous amount of electrical power and then increase the frequency of GPU and CPU until they reach the capabilities of the system's cooling solution. It's a completely different paradigm. Rather than running at constant frequency and letting power vary based on the workload, we run at essentially constant power and let the frequency vary based on the workload. We then tackled the engineering challenge of a cost-effective and high-performance cooling solution designed for that specific power level. In some ways, it becomes a simpler problem because there are no more unknowns. There's no need to guess what power consumption the worst-case game might have. As for the details of the cooling solution, we're saving them for our teardown. I think you'll be quite happy with what the engineering team came up with. So, how fast can we run the GPU and CPU with this strategy?
7.
The simplest approach would be to look at the actual temperature of the silicon die and throttle the frequency on that basis. But that won't work. It fails to create a consistent PlayStation 5 experience. It wouldn't do to run a console slower simply because it was in a hot room. So rather than look at the actual temperature of the silicon die, we look at
explains why your job was replaced by a robot.
and CPU are performing, and set the frequencies on that basis.
I've remembered a lot of words he says. Something about a kraken.
And repeatable. While we're at it,
there were some boxes on the
AMD's
screen.
Smart Shift technology and send any unused
and like
power from the
R2D2
CPU to the GPU so it can squeeze out a few more pixels. The benefits of this strategy are quite large. Running a GPU at 2 gigahertz was looking like an unreachable target with the old fixed frequency strategy. With this new paradigm, we're able to run way over that. In fact, we have to cap the GPU frequency at 2.23 gigahertz so that we can guarantee that the on-chip logic operates properly.
Yeah, what he said.
36 CUs at 2.23 gigahertz.
10.3 teraflops.
10.3 teraflops. And we expect
Is
the
that
GPU
is that
to spend
confirmed?
most of its time at or close to that frequency and performance.
That's the T-flops number
Similarly,
everyone
running
wanted.
the CPU
10.3. Is that good enough for
causing
you?
headaches with the old
Does that change
strategy.
anything?
But now we can run it as high as 3.5 gigahertz. In fact, it spends most of its time at that frequency. That doesn't mean all games.
Is
will
that
run
lower or
at
higher than what
2.23
Xbox said? I have no
gigahertz
idea.
or
I don't really
3.5
care.
gigahertz.
Who
When
cares?
that worst case game
Is Xbox
arrives,
11?
it will run at a lower clock speed.
I'm gonna look it up
but
real quick.
Not too much lower. To reduce power by 10%, it only takes a couple of percent reduction in frequency. So I'd expect any downclocking to be pretty minor. All things considered, the change to a variable frequency approach will show
12.
significant gains for PlayStation.
Xbox is 12
The
teraflops.
final of our 3 principles was about
So,
finding new dreams.
almost 2 whole
Important for
teraflops
us on the
worse.
hardware
Don't
team
buy
to
it.
find
It's trash.
New ways to expand or deepen gaming, and that's what led us to a focus on 3D audio. As players, we experience the game through the visuals, through audio, and through the feedback we receive.
And y'all were
from the
complaining they weren't
such as
advertising
rumble
dreams
or
enough.
haptic. Personally, I feel a game is just dead without audio. Visuals are, of course, important, but the impact of audio is huge as well. At the same time, the audio team on
Yeah,
the game
Mystic, I
project
love
has to
Mystic.
do a lot with a little. For example, on PlayStation 4, there's fierce competition for the Jaguar CPU core.
I don't believe he's going to
Audio
announce games. I'm
typically
holding
ends
out
up
for
getting just a
backwards
fraction of the
compatibility
core.
talk or
That's
something.
not much
At
of
least
a
show the
computational
console.
resource, particularly
Show
when you
something.
consider that the visuals run at 30 or 60 frames a second, but audio processing needs to happen at almost 200 times a second.
Either way, this is all very
It's
good
been
to know.
tough going making forward progress on audio with PlayStation 4, particularly when PlayStation 3
really?
was such a beast when it came to audio.
Oh, was it?
SPUs in Cell were almost a perfect device for audio rendering. Simple pipelined algorithms could really take advantage.
I'm hoping
of
he'll
this
mention
advanced
Ratchet and
DNA
Clank just
and
like in
frequently
passing.
reach 100% utilization
Just
of the floating point unit.
So we can
There's unfortunately nothing
celebrate it.
comparable on PlayStation 4. Probably the most dramatic progress in the
PSVR.
PlayStation 4 generation has been with virtual reality.
Is he going to talk about this?
PSVR hardware has its own audio unit. It supports about 50 pretty decent 3D sound sources. And this provided a hint as to where we could go with audio, as well as some valuable experience. Not to oversimplify, but here were our goals for audio on
But I'm going to
PlayStation 4.
oversimplify.
The first goal was great audio for everyone, not just VR users or
his campaign
soundbar
slogan?
owners or headphone users. That meant audio had to be part of the console. It couldn't be a peripheral. The second goal was to support hundreds of sound sources. We didn't want developers to have to pick and choose what sounds would get 3D effects and which wouldn't. We wanted every sound in the game to have dimensionality. And finally, we wanted to really take on the challenges of presence and locality.
The cat's fighting outside?
Now, when we say presence, we
Did
mean
you hear that?
the feeling that you're actually there. You've entered the matrix.
You heard that?
It's not, of course, something we thought
This is
we
the
could perfectly
cats
achieve.
that
The
fight
idea was
outside.
that if
It's
we stopped
great.
using just a
Love
rain
it.
sound,
Not
and
my
instead
cat.
use lots of 3D audio sources for raindrops hitting the ground at all sorts
Barry,
of
you know my
locations
cat's
around you,
name?
then at some point your brain would take
She
a
stays
leap
in here.
and you'd begin to have this feeling of real presence inside the virtual world of the game.
Yeah, that happens
This
like
has the
a dozen
capacity to
times a day.
affect your appreciation
Those cats
of the game,
love it.
just like music in a game does. The concept of locality is simpler. It's just your sense of where the audio is coming from. To the right of you, behind you, above you. This can immerse you further in the game, and it can also directly enhance the gameplay.
Every time I get shot in the video game, I want to feel it.
As an example.
Dead Space!
You're fighting enemies in fairly dark, spooky locations.
Bring back Dead. I was just talking about Dead Space in the PS5 games video.
There was one last enemy growling and hunting you down, but it was difficult to tell quite where that enemy was. With headphones, you could tell that the enemy was somewhere on the right, which let you deduce, if you couldn't see it, that it must be somewhere behind and to your right. But with 3D audio with good locality, the idea is you know the enemy is precisely there, and you turn, and you take it out.
And you take it out.
How do we know where a sound is coming from?
That could be a meme template. It's right there, you take it out.
All those bumps and folds in the ear have a meaning, evolutionarily speaking. Based on what direction the sound is coming from, sound waves bounce around inside the ear, there's some constructive and destructive interference, and the result is a change in volume. The phase
He mentioned Jack too and Dead Space. He can mention anything at this point.
Took to reach the ear canal. These volume changes and phase shifts are different for each direction and also vary depending on the frequency of the sound. Head size and head shape also impact the sound in a similar fashion. The way that the sound changes based on direction and frequency
We're learning about ears now.
in a table called the head-related transfer function, or HRTF. Here's part of one. The vertical axis is the frequency.
What am I watching right now?
The direction, front, back, left, right, and the color gives the degree of attenuation of the sound at that frequency. The HRTF is as unique to an individual as a fingerprint is. In fact, you're looking at mine right now. Here's how we measure.
We got to look at Mark Cerney's ear.
Hundreds of people through this process. We put a microphone in the subject's left and right ear
Oh, hey,
canal,
it's the world's quietest room.
and then sit the subject down in the middle of an array of 22 speakers.
This is no longer a video game thing.
Audio sweep from each speaker as we rotate the subject.
Oh, this is
In a
interesting,
course of
though.
10 or 20 minutes, we're able to sample the HRTF at over 1,000 locations. Using an HRTF when rendering audio creates unparalleled quality, but it's computationally expensive. The simplest way to use an HRTF is to process a sound source to make it appear as if it's coming from one of those 1,000 locations we sample. Unfortunately, the processing has to be done in frequency domain rather than time domain, so there's multiple fast Fourier transforms needed for every sound source.
I don't know what he's talking about. I want to know
That's a lot.
if I record the PlayStation 5 on
computational
OBS
complexity was the determining factor
and upload
for
a
our
YouTube
strategy.
video.
It meant we had to bite the bullet and
Can people
design
watch the
and
video
build
with headphones
custom
and
hardware
get
units
the same
for 3D
effect?
audio. Collectively, we're referring to the hardware
enjoy that
unit and
ramen,
proprietary algorithms we run on it as Tempest 3D Audio Tech. The meaning
Tempest.
of 3D audio and technology.
Hey, the
should be pretty
Tempest was a
obvious
weapon in
enough.
Ratchet and Clank
As
up your
for
arsenal, right?
Tempest, I feel it really reflects our goals
you
with
go.
audio. It suggests a certain intensity of experience and also hints at your presence within it. We're calling the hardware unit that we built the Tempest engine.
SCP.
It's based on AMD's GPU technology. We modified a compute unit in such a way as to make it very close to the
Human
SPUs in
experimentation,
PlayStation
yeah.
3. Remember when I said that they were ideal for audio? So the Tempest engine has no caches, just like an SPU.
Such a power
All
move.
data access is via DMA, just like an SPU. Our target was that it would have more power than a CPU, thanks to the parallelism that a GPU can achieve, and then it would be more efficient than our GPU, thanks to the SPU-like architecture. The goal being to make possible near 100% utilization of the CU's vector
Hey, have
units.
y'all been voting for your
Where
favorite
we ended
Ratchet
up
weapon on
is a unit with
Insomniac's
roughly
social
the
media?
same SIMD power and bandwidth as all 8 Jaguar cores in the PlayStation 4 combined.
I don't think they've done it
If we
today
were to
yet.
use the same algorithms as PSVR, that's enough for something like 5,000 sound sources. But of course, we want to use more complex algorithms, and we don't need anything like that number of sounds. It would have been wonderful if a simpler strategy, such as
It's been like
using
45
Dolby
minutes.
Atmos peripherals, could have achieved our goals, but we wanted 3D audio for
Oh,
all,
what was the
not
bouncer
just
against?
those
I think I voted against the
licensed
bouncer.
sound sources we wanted. Also, we wanted many hundreds of sound sources, not just the 32 that Atmos supports.
I think they are real people because they're
Finally, we
moving. I
wanted
know,
to
I
be
was
able to
wondering the
throw
same
an
thing.
overwhelming amount of processing power at the problem, and it wasn't clear what any peripheral might have.
How has he not ran out of breath? This is all one
In
breath.
fact, with the Tempest engine, we've even got enough power that we can allocate some to the games, to the extent that games want to make use of convolution reverb and other algorithms that are either computationally expensive or need high bandwidth. But the primary purpose of the Tempest engine remains 3D audio.
The Tempest.
Now, 3D audio is a major academic research topic. It's safe to say that no one in the world has all of the answers.
I'm
And
excited
set
for
of
the 3D
algorithms
audio.
that has to be invented, tuned, or implemented to realize our vision for 3D audio is immense. For example, use of HRTFs in games is quite complex. Before, I
Oh,
talked
of
about
course.
making a sound source
Tell me
appear
about
as
it,
if it's
Mark.
coming
Please do.
from one of those 1,000 HRTF sample locations. But
This is gonna
for
need some water.
high-quality 3D game audio, we have to handle other possibilities. The sound source might not be at one of the
being held
1,000
hostage.
HRTF sample locations. So
What is this? What am I looking at? What is this?
The sound
What is this?
source
Does this
might
mean
be
anything to
needs
anyone?
Very special handling as that blend keeps changing.
It's to
and that can
somebody,
cause
but
phase
like
artifacts in the
not most
resulting
people, I'm
audio.
sure.
Or the sound source might have a size to it, meaning it should feel as if it's coming from an
Yeah, guys,
area
I'm taking
rather
notes.
than
Where are you
a
at?
single point. There's also whole categories of approaches to be handled. 3D
They're all just
audio
random
can be
shapes.
implemented using individual processing of 3D
Test
sound
when you don't
sources.
study.
But alternatively, ambisonics can be used for 3D audio. Ambisonics being somewhat like the spherical harmonics used in
I want to make a dirty joke right now.
Finally, there's audio devices. The player might be using headphones or TV speakers or have a higher-end surround sound setup with 6 or more speakers. Audio is going to be a multi-year, step-by-step process.
So it's not going to be done
Having
at
said
launch?
that, headphone audio implementation is largely complete at this time. It was a natural place for us to start. With headphones, we control exactly
So it's
what
only
each ear
working with
hears,
headphones now,
and
not even
therefore
100%?
The algorithmic development and implementation are more straightforward. For TV speakers and stereo speakers, we're in the process of implementing virtual surround sound. The idea being that if you're sitting in a sweet spot in front of the TV, then
sweet
the sound
spot.
can be made to feel as if it's coming from any direction, even behind you.
What if I sit
Virtual
2 feet in front of my
surround sound
TV?
has a lot in common with 3D audio on headphones, but it's more complex because the left ear can hear the right speaker and vice versa.
Oh,
We
look at
have a
that.
basic implementation of virtual surround sound up and running. We're now looking at increasing the size of that sweet spot, which is to say, making
How to
the
turn your
area you
PS5
need
into
to
a
be
nuclear
in to
warhead.
feel the 3D effect larger, and we're also working to boost the sense of locality.
I'm gonna
Headphone
take
audio
notes.
is the current gold standard for 3D audio on PlayStation 5, but we're going to see what we can do to bring virtual surround sound to a similar level, after which we'll start in on setups with more speakers, such as 6-channel surround sound. It's now to the point where some of the PlayStation 5 games in development are extensively using these systems. One of the game demos allows you to toggle between conventional PlayStation 4 style stereo audio and our new 3D audio. I listened with just an ordinary pair of over-the-ear headphones, and wow.
I'm taking notes right now.
3D
on
audio has that
what I'm remembering.
dimensional feel to it. Conventional stereo audio feels smashed flat by comparison. The improvement is obvious. So, a big advancement, but have I entered the matrix? Does my brain believe I'm really there? Like I was talking about earlier when I explained our target of presence. Well, the answer is no, but you've probably caught on to what's missing here, namely whose HRTF was being used. It wasn't mine, it was the default HRTF.
Cerney.
The audio team analyzed the hundreds that they measured and chose the one they felt was the closest fit to the total game-playing audience. This shows a piece of the
Someone
default
beat me to making that
HRTF
joke?
on the left,
Oh,
and
did I
my
miss it?
HRTF on the right. You can see that the general features are much the same, but the details are quite different. With the default HRTF, as I said,
Demo.
the 3D audio
Guys, I miss
sounds pretty
demos.
great. When I use my HRTF, though, the audio reaches a higher level of realism, which is to say that when using headphones and my HRTF, I occasionally get fooled and even think a sound is coming from the real world when it's actually coming from the game.
Dude, imagine with horror games.
Corollary to this
Oh,
is that there are a few people describe the PlayStation 5's 3D audio as sounding like a bit better stereo audio. Presumably, they're the ones
bit
at
better.
the very edges of this diagram. Which means what HRTF you're using is key. I'd like everyone to be able to experience what I'm experiencing, but obviously it's not possible to measure the HRTF of every PlayStation user.
sure you
That
can.
means
Just include one of those
HRTF
things with
selection
each
and
PlayStation 5.
synthesis are going to be big topics going forward
So we
as
can
the
map our
tempest
ears.
technology matures. At PlayStation 5 launch, we'll be offering a choice of 5 HRTFs. There's a simple test where you pick the one that gives you the best locality. That's just the first step, though. This is an open-ended research topic. Maybe you'll be sending us a photo of your ear, and we'll choose a neural network to pick the closest HRTF in our library.
Mark's got an ear
Maybe you'll be
fetish,
sending
writing
us
that
a
down.
video of your ears and your head, and we'll make a 3D model of them and synthesize the HRTF. Maybe you'll play an audio game to tune your HRTF.
What
We'll be
is he
subtly
saying?
changing it as you play and home in on the HRTF that gives you the highest score, meaning that it matches you the best. This is a journey we'll all be taking together over the next few years. Ultimately, we're committing to enabling everyone to experience that next level of realism. Hopefully, I've been able to illustrate a bit about our design and decision-making process.
Is he wrapping it up now?
And why PlayStation 5 has the feature set that it does. Now comes the fun part. We get to see how the development community takes advantage of that feature set.
With Ratchet and Clank.
I'm hoping for the completely unexpected. Will it come from audio, ray tracing, the capabilities of the SSD, or something else? I guess we'll find out soon.
SSD capabilities.
Thank you for your time today.
Wow, that was only... that was like barely an hour. So it's over. It's over. Okay. Okay. Before you leave, okay, let's review. Let's review. This is what I have down in my notes, okay? The PS5 has a built-in Kraken. The DualShock 5 will leak ink if you use the touchpad, if you rub it the right way. Yellow squares now stay the same shape instead of getting smaller. And then about 4 different things about ears. We learned what Mark's ear looks like. Sony promotes human experimentation. Mark Cerney has entered the Matrix. And Mark Cerney has a fetish for ears and is asking for free ear pics and videos. PlayStation 5, everyone. Okay, but Ratchet. So about Ratchet, though. I told you I was not expecting anything from Ratchet. And we didn't get any. I wasn't expecting... We got a Jak 2 and Dead Space, and he talked about God of War and Spider-Man. Those are like the 4 games, I think, that were mentioned total. Which is some pretty deep cuts. That's pretty crazy. I would love to see Kojima with utilize that 3D audio with his next game. I guess he's working on some horror game right now, maybe with Norman Reedus. Did you see Norman Reedus said he was in talks with Kojima again? Is that his name? Hideo Kojima? Yeah, Kojima. Okay, so no, there was no Ratchet mention today. He really shut that down in the first like 10 seconds. He was like, we'll talk about games. What did he say? Can I rewatch it? I want to know exactly what he said. Something about we'll have time to talk about it in the future or something. So basically just like chill the hell out. We'll get there kind of thing, which was expected. So I'm sure they'll do. I don't know how they're going to do it. I'm hoping it'll be like this again. They'll do another stream of some kind, with the whole, apparently I can't say it or YouTube's going to like destroy my video, but the thing going around the world right now, there's probably not going to, it'll probably be like this again, but I don't know. They can't have like a bunch of developers like fly in to do this event. So maybe like each developer will film their own like showcase for what they're working on, which would include Insomniac. See, the best part about this is Insomniac is a part of Worldwide Studios with PlayStation. So they get like, their high priority, obviously. And Ratchet will be coming before Spider-Man, of course. So that's, there is hope. It's just a matter of it's not if, but when. So later, he did say eventually, this isn't loading. I don't know why this isn't loading. But he said eventually, yes, they will be talking about games. I'm glad. It sounds like they're going to do that. Can I do like the full camera? Can we do that? Yeah, hey. Yeah, so he talked about, what are you guys saying? Let me look at the chat real quick, actually. Yeah, I didn't understand. I understood like maybe like 10% of that. Free ear pics. That's all he wants. Yeah, I just looked at. He said there's a lot of chances later in the year to show PS5 games. Yeah, thank you. I don't know why this isn't loading for me, but yeah, he said lots of chances later in the year. So it'll probably be multiple events throughout the year. I could get rid of this small guy down here, but just cover him. I like having two. He's doing me. You should go full on. No, I'll keep it on. Yeah, here's my mic. I never show my mic. Shout out to the band Too Much Awesome that my girlfriend is managing. Lots of chances later in the year for them to talk about games and stuff. Oh, my green screen. So we'll be here again for future streams. Hopefully we'll get more notice though. I got really lucky today. I don't work for another like 3 hours. I'm just so worried that they're gonna be like, we're gonna announce all of our first party games tomorrow, and I work at like 10 a.m. and the stream's at like, well, if it was, I mean, I still could have probably watched most of it. I would have asked to come in late if like it was at 9 and I had to be at work at 10 or something. I'm super stressed and worried that for some reason I'm not gonna catch this on stream, the Ratchet and Clank reveal. It'll happen, guys. It's gonna happen. They're gonna announce it. I just hope it's gonna be in a stream format like this so we can do this again and all be together. This has been so much fun with you guys. Yeah, it was only an hour. Should I make a video about this? I don't know what to make about it. I guess I could. Sure. Let's do a little recap video. I'll go over my notes again, and I'll just kind of say again what I'm saying right now, but I want to say it now on stream anyways. Just, you're coming over here? Like, actually? Are you serious? Or are you joking? No, I'm going to be off in a minute. Off of this right now, off the stream. I'll close it down. Yeah, sure. I guess so. Yes, it's been so much fun hanging out with all you guys. I love this. Please follow my Twitch. I would love to stream more. I just don't want to do it on YouTube all the time because it'll hurt my analytics, which I mean, I only care about because it'll hurt the performance of the channel, which is not good. Supposedly, and I just don't want 1,000 stream VODs on the channel. I could like delete them, but I don't want to delete them. So yeah, I would love to just like kind of like, hey, I feel like playing Dreams. Let's like stream it, because I feel like I can't play games now unless I'm like getting some kind of content out of it. So yeah, rest in peace, Dan Johnson. Always. So I would love to just like be able. I feel like I can't play a game casually anymore. I gotta like have a purpose to doing it, and I can't always have a purpose. So follow me on Twitch. I would love to do that more. Maybe I'll do it on here a couple times here and there. I am destroying my channel as I speak. I should probably wrap this up. Yeah, maybe I'll do a quick recap video about this, maybe now or later or something. Yeah, views are like dropping off right now. What did we peak at? Like 139 views, I think. That's insane. A total of 906 playbacks. That's insane. 912. Wow. Y'all are incredible. Y'all are really incredible. I had so much fun with this today. Yeah, they'll talk about games in the future. We'll be here for future streams. Hopefully they'll be streaming it. I don't know how they plan on doing it, but we'll see. We'll just have to stay tuned. I'll keep you guys updated. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Follow my Twitter, linked in all my video descriptions. Thank you for watching them, John. Is that 3 dislikes now? It's because I'm talking too much. I'm terrible at wrapping up videos. I really am. Yeah, only 2 new. I hope none of you are too upset that there was no mention of Ratchet. I told you guys to not not have too many expectations. Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, sure. I don't really post on Instagram much. I post on my story on Instagram like every day. If you want to see more about my personal life, I guess. Share my personal life a little bit. I think that's linked in all my videos too in the description. It's the same @. It's just Nick. I think it's underscore. Nick underscore Astalos, right? I don't even know my own Instagram. Yeah, it is. Yeah, they'll do a PS5 games stream. I'm gonna guess to like July or something, sometime in the summer when like E3 was supposed to happen. Give or take a month. So like April, maybe June, or like June, July, August, something around there. They'll probably do some games stuff, and we'll be here again for that. And we are going to get this live reaction to the Ratchet and Clank announcement. I want so hard for it to happen, guys. I swear, I'm super stressed about like making sure I can make it happen, because I want this for all of you. It'll be incredible. It'll be such a great moment. We're gonna all die. But yeah, that was interesting nonetheless. We learned a lot about PlayStation 5. I guess there's no backwards compatibility. He didn't say there wasn't, but he didn't say there was, besides PS4. And it wasn't even as promising as it sounded, but I'll probably just do a video about it. We'll recap this. So yeah, I guess I'll turn off now. Everyone's leaving anyways. Nothing left to talk about. Oh, yes, Deadly Jeff. Love it. Thank you guys for tuning in. This means the world to me. Thank you guys for 1,000 subs. Yeah, so I'll try to do a recap video about this, as well as an 1,000 sub thank you video, which will have a big announcement in it, which I'm really excited to tell you guys about. Exciting stuff. So stay tuned for that. Also, spoiler alert, I have a Dreams video coming up. I was going to launch it tomorrow, but now I'm probably going to wait until Sunday because this happened today. Stay tuned for that. It's exciting. And it's not Ratchet related, but it's something else that a lot of you might like. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you so much. I love y'all. Thank you. Yeah, I got to go to work now in a little bit, and it's going to be, nobody's going to be there. We don't even let customers in the store anymore. Thank you guys. All right, yeah, I'm terrible at wrapping things up. That's like my biggest weakness. I just don't know when to stop talking. Thank you all. I love you all. I love you all so much. Thank you for making this an incredible stream. The best stream I've had in my life. And 1,000 subs last night. This is a childhood dream. Like, honestly, for the past 12 years, this is all I've wanted. Thank you for making it a reality. I'll more in a dedicated video. I want to share a lot more personal things with you guys if you're okay with that. If you care at all. If anybody cares. I mean, 45 people are still watching. It's like 10 minutes after it ended, so some of you care. Yeah, thank you. I love you all. GF memes. PETA, Chief Blocks, Lazy Lombacks. I see you all the time. Quantum Chill. Star Platinum. Hi, how are ya? Deadly Jeff. Who else has been here? Base for You. I see your comments. 9099. Red Ratchet, of course. I love you guys. Thank you to everyone that watches my videos. What Agree, of course. You want a 3-head, Nick? Let's get 3 heads and we'll sign off. Can I just like copy this? Copy. Paste. Oh, baby. We gotta make it bigger too. Yes. Yes. Oh, now you can't see the comments. There, let's do it like that. The 3-headed Kraken and the PS5. This is it. This is what it looks like. All right, I'm going to, I'm signing off. Thank you all so much for your time. I love you all. And I'll see you soon. Peace.